So how did you feel about the second half of the book?
I guess I'll start. I think that O'Brien definitely did a better job at keeping things like easier to understand, except for in the chapter where he talked about the lake, and that was kind of really hard to understand. But like other than that, the second half of the book was really easy to understand.
Yeah, it was definitely less jumbled than it was before, because he wasn't going back and forth between his like different stories, like the present and the past. Like he still did that a little bit, but I'd say it was much easier to understand when he did go back and forth.
Yeah, I agree. It was much easier to understand, and I really didn't like read a whole lot of the first half, but I read a lot of the second half of the book, and it was pretty. I liked it actually.
I think there's more imagery, there's more tone words in the second half, which makes it easier to picture what's going on. It makes it more understandable for everybody. So
Yeah, I definitely agree with the imagery part of it. It used a lot of imagery.
Yeah.
Especially like when the man he killed.
and
He described that guy for like 4 pages.
yeah, and the Kyoto guy in the mud.
Yeah.
So I think like one of the chapters, Roseanne, that was the most important was the Ghost Soldiers one about him getting sent back to headquarters and what he had to go through and like how he was feeling after that, and when the guys like came back to visit.
There's a part, like at the beginning of the book, he like really dreaded going into the war, and then like he was really like he wasn't for the war, and then during that chapter when he did get like sent back, he said when he was like watching the soldiers go out, he said a funny thing, but I felt betrayed. So like he almost felt like his like whole perspective on the war changed, and that like now that he was in Vietnam, he really wanted to be with like all of his guys and continue to like fight.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think actually one of my journals, like one of the quotes I found from that was, in a way, I envied them, all of them. Their deep brushed hands, the sores and blisters, the stories, the in it togetherness. I felt close to them, yes, but I also felt a new sense of separation. So I think it was like a lot different, and like his mindset changed after he got sent back to, like after getting shot, he got sent back to headquarters. I think a lot of it just changed.
I agree with both you guys on that because, like you said, that they go through so much together and they become like brothers, and instead of just friends and soldiers, they become family and closer. So I can totally agree with that.
One of my questions was, why does Azar keep messing with Bobby Jorgensen after O'Brien tells him to stop? That was when they set up the little thing across the bunker with the cans and the sandbag.
I don't know. I might not be able to find it right now, but I think he told him to stop, and Azar just said, he's like, don't take it personally or anything. He's like, it's just like how I feel like I need to finish things. I'm pretty sure that's something he said. So like Azar just felt like once they started it, their plan, they just had to finish it.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I remember him saying that. So.
Yeah, that was actually one of my questions too. Was like that is why did O'Brien want to stop hassling Bobby before they had even finished it? And he was the one who wanted to like hurt him so bad and make him feel like that. And I think it was just more in general that like once he saw how like scared Bobby was before like they even got to the end of it, he felt like he had done what he wanted to do, and he had scared him to the point where he had been scared after he got shot, so he's just like done with it. He didn't want to mess with it.
It definitely really confused me when he was telling him to stop, and O'Brien basically broke down and just put his head behind his knees. And then when Azar left, he basically kicked him in the head, and then he became friends with Bobby Jorgensen after that. That was really confusing.
Like after O'Brien like wanted to stop, like he said that like Azar was in control, like the second half of the plan. He said it was basically like all Azar trying to finish it.
He was kind of known to like mess around. Like he'd always be joking about like bad things
Yeah,
and stuff. Yeah, so
he was a
like
big
that kind
joker.
of fit his role.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I remember like back when O'Brien killed the guy, Azar would like joke about it, and like
And I,
tell him.
and I think he said something while when Kiowa died too in the mud. I think he started like joking about that too.
Yeah, when they were doing the police line, like everyone was lined up trying to find something. They were all lined up in a straight line, and they were going. He was just joking, and then I don't know who it was, but they just like kept telling him to stop.
I was joking about that girl too that was dancing.
And then who came up behind him and almost threw him in the well?
Another thing like about the joking, one of the chapters is like they talk about the last chapter I think is like the ones who died or something like that. And they talk about O'Brien talks about how his first like dead soldier or dead guy that he saw in Vietnam was like about the last chapter kind of, and they all like joked about the guy when they saw him dead. Maybe like go up and talk to him and like shake his hand and stuff like that. And O'Brien like couldn't do it. They thought it was so weird. And I think joking about it was like what he said was like a way to like honor them almost and like keep them like continue what they were doing. It's kind of weird. I thought that was weird.
And I think like them joking like the dead people is like a way of them trying to keep their spirits like up high because they knew in their head that could easily be them.
It's almost like a way of like getting over it, getting over like the death part of it. They would just like make jokes about it to get over it. I thought.
They're going off that he talks about the British soldier who they planted fake documents on and rolled in the scene. He could always remember the sound of just the body entering the water. And he just really had a hard time, I feel like, coping with that, especially with how new he was to the war. He'd never seen it.
They going off like the death and all that. I had a question. It's like, why do you think O'Brien describes the man he killed so thoroughly? Because like, I had a journal about it too. It was like, he had one sentence. It was so long. He said, his jaw was in his throat, his upper lip and teeth were gone. His one eye was shut. His other eye was a star-shaped hole. His eyebrows were thin and arched like a woman's. His nose was undamaged. There was a slight tear at the lobe of one ear. His clean black hair was swept upward into a cowlick at the rear of the skull. His forehead was lightly freckled. His fingernails were clean. The skin at the left cheek was peeled back into 3 ragged strips. His right cheek was smooth and hairless. There was a butterfly on his chin. His neck was open to his spinal cord, and the blood there was thick and shiny. And it was this wound that had killed him. And that was all one sentence. I was just wondering why he described the man he killed so thoroughly.
I think he was so shocked at what he did because he was newer, so he'd never killed anyone before. Like he was able to remember it. So when he saw it, he remembered like, everything.
Yeah, he remembered like every little detail about it.
And I had like a question like kind of with that too, is that how were O'Brien's thoughts knowing that he killed someone? It was kind of like the same thing because he was definitely in shock that he did something like that because he never really saw himself as that kind of person.
I had a journal question of that, and it was on page 126 and 127 when he talks about how he didn't hate the man, he just wanted him to go away. It was just meant to scare him, to make him go away. And then when he'd already thrown the grenade, where he told himself to throw it, like he was still debating it in his head, and then the next thing he knew, his body had already thrown the grenade when he had even told himself to throw it.
Yeah, I think seeing that person, like knowing that he did it, was really traumatizing, and it was just.
Yeah, because wasn't that like wasn't that where like he was kind of like kneeling down by the guy he killed, just like staring at him, and like all of his buddies were like telling him like, "Come on, like it's time to go," and he was sitting there for like the longest time, just like staring at him.
Yeah, and that's when Kiowa came up and told him that it was a good kill, and that
Yeah.
it could have been him if he hadn't done it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was really like an intense thing, and really hard for me. One of my journals kind of like goes along with it. I mean, there was a quote that said, this one. I'd come to this war a quiet, thoughtful sort of person, a college grad, Phi Beta Kappa, and summa cum laude, all the credentials. But after 7 months in the bush, I realized that those high civilized trappings had somehow been crushed under the weight of the simple daily realities I'd turned me inside. And I think, like, just in general, it was kind of a point where he realized that the war had really changed him. And he was a lot different than what he was when he was like a young boy that didn't want to go to war.
Mm-hmm.
One of my questions was, it was towards the end of the book when he was talking about that Linda girl. He was talking about all the dead soldiers, and he mentions Linda on their date or whatever. One of my questions is, why did O'Brien think of Linda whenever he thinks about the past soldiers? Like he said, he would think of her first. He would think about all those soldiers that had passed.
I think they think about her first because it was probably his first experience with death ever in his life. Like she was the first person he'd ever loved, but he thought that it really could have gone somewhere. And he was really oblivious to like what she was going through until the fact when the bully took her hat off and he saw all the scars and the stitches. And then when they visited her at the funeral home, that was kind of like his first experience with death before he never experienced war.
Yeah, I agree with Mel on that one. Like, it's just the fact that that was like the first death that he experienced. So he just goes back to that first, and it was like his first love or ever. He's in fourth grade, and he like actually like really liked her. And I kind of had a question, like that was just kind of the same as Sam's. Like, why was he able to remember the night with Linda at the movies like so vividly? Like there was like 3 or 4 pages about that one night with Linda when he was in like fourth grade. I don't know. I didn't understand like really how he remembered that so much. I think it was because he loved her that much, and because she died at such a young age that he just remembers her.
Yeah, I agree. I think like her death was probably something that like stuck with him. I mean, it obviously is still with him, but like her dying at such a young age and being someone that he cared about so much is something that would like stick with you, and you'd be able to remember everything then just ultimately.
And on page 226, it says we keep the dead alive with stories. So I think he's also like, he needs to tell those stories and like relive those types of things because that's what keeps their like image in his head and all the things that they shared together. Like it just stays with him better. Like he tells the stories in the books.
One of my questions was, why does Rat Kylie have a hard time dealing with the nightlife? Especially with how it messed him up mentally when he went and shot his foot to get out of the place and was set in Japan.
I think, I don't remember who said it, but they said they had done the nightlife for a while and it like put a toll on them because they had seen so much and like they hear things and they get really like distracted and paranoid. So I think that could have taken a mental toll on him after so long.
Yeah, that was one of my questions too. Like how he got sent to Japan, how it made him feel. So it's how did Rat Kylie get sent to Japan, and why would he do this to himself?
I think there's actually a part in the book but it was he was talking about Kuroa and he had said like maybe he just wasn't cut out to be a medic because like a regular soldier goes through a lot mentally, but like on top of it being a medic is really hard because you have to deal with all the wounds and you have to like treat all the guys, which I think is like 10 times worse than just going around because he had to do all of that and he had to like come back. Like the first time O'Brien got shot, he was like right by Rat Kylie and he like fixed him up and then he'd go back into the fight and then he'd come back and like check on O'Brien and he'd go back. And I think just doing that for such a long time would really take a toll on him.
Going back to what Ford said about, or what we were saying about Rat Kylie, it says that this whole war on page 212, he said this whole war, he said, you know what it is? Just one big banquet. Meet, man, you and me. Everybody meet for the bugs. And then it said the next morning he shot himself. So, and then after that, a little bit after that, it says that Lieutenant Cross went over and said that he vouched that it was an accident. So Lieutenant Cross kind of like fell for him because he would vouch that it was an accident even though it wasn't.
And that was one of the questions.
He was definitely going through something mentally because it said that he started picturing like how much people's head would weigh if it was just them. He was to carry them to the chopper, or he would just see like his own organs, like his heart, his own kidneys, or he'd like imagine the other soldiers in his platoon with like out arms and legs, and what he would do.
So going back to kind of what Allie was saying about like how it really took a toll on him, O'Brien had talked about in the Ghost Soldiers that George Jensen was no rat Kylie, so he was talking about how like George Jensen really didn't know about shock and all that kind of stuff, and O'Brien kept saying he was not as good as Kylie, and how Kylie was so good at his job because he was taking risks to like try to help soldiers, but that definitely did take a toll on him. Even though he was so good at his job, it really did just take a toll on him.
And I think that's why part of the reason why he said that, or Cross said that he vouched out as an accident, is because like a lot of them thought that Kylie was better than Jorgensen.
I can agree with that because, like what you guys said, he kept going back and checking on O'Brien. It's like a high pressure job because you have someone's life you're trying to take care of and you're trying to fight a battle at the same time. Like that's just such high pressure. And after a while, that can make you lose. So.
I had a question that said, why does the young soldier blame Kylie's death on himself and the flashlight? It was like the kid that was looking for the picture of his girlfriend or whatever. He was the one, he said, the quote he said, the quote was, like murder, the boy thought, the flashlight made it happen, dumb and dangerous. And as a result of his friend Kyle was dead. So why did he blame it on the flashlight?
I assume he probably blamed it on the flashlight because it was pitch black out, and the enemy knows the first thing they see they're going to shoot. So if they see like a light shine up, and especially if the light shines on who got shot? Yeah, probably because the light landed on Keola, and they saw him and they shot him. So I guess he blames that on himself for the light being illuminating him.
I think, yeah, I agree. And I think if you were like the younger soldier who found him, it would be really hard to like just be walking around and then see a dead body. And like you didn't know what happened to him, so I think it's just easy to blame yourself for it and like going to tell somebody instead of just like, because you can't just not say anything about it because it would be like really traumatizing for the effects.
Because like I think in that there was like Azar and some other ones that were like kind of joking like about it again, like to try to get over it, or like what we were talking about earlier about joking about death. And I think they were doing that, and then the young soldier was off in the distance, like freaking out and like blaming it on himself. And it's almost like he couldn't like take in the fact that it wasn't his fault, but he just had to blame it on himself.
And I think that would have gone the same with like if it would have been anyone else like in that same position. I mean, they would have gone the exact same way.
Another one of my questions were, why did a lot of soldiers feel ashamed to leave the war when they left?
I definitely feel that O'Brien feels that, especially when he gets sent after getting shot twice. He feels like that he put so much in, and then he basically left all his friends there on his own. Like he can't be there to help them anymore. And I feel like that's like the biggest part that it made, because they didn't like they wanted to leave, but then again they didn't want to leave those that they had been fighting with behind, because their motto was leave no man behind, and he basically was leaving everything behind to go somewhere else.
It says, one of the quotes on page 207, it says almost war buddies. So that like kind of concerned, like they didn't want to leave, like as much as they did want to leave, like Noah said, they couldn't just like stick with the, like know that they were leaving everyone else behind because they were going home, or not home, but like just leaving the war in general.
And that was the chapter where they were messing with Jorgensen, wasn't it? Or he said that, and like even though like this sometimes get in fights like they did with like Jorgensen, like they're still buddies, and like They'll always be together. They don't want to leave each other, even if they get in fights sometimes.
And one of the chapters I thought that was really significant was when O'Brien went back to Vietnam with his daughter. And one of my questions was, what does O'Brien do when he's back in Vietnam in the field with his daughter, and why is it significant? This is like when he actually like takes his clothes off and goes into the water, and it says, it said like the water is only like 8 inches deep from where this was, and Keola had died.
I think him like going back and doing that was like a way for him to get over it and then like feel better about it, because for so long it would like almost haunt him probably, you know, the fact that he lost his buddy there. So going back, and I think he like returns his moccasins or like puts his moccasins there, and I think I think it was just a way for him to like get over it and feel better.
I think because he said on that chapter, he said that it took a big weight off his shoulders, so I can definitely agree with that.
Yeah, it's on 177 and 78. Where he said, I stripped onto my underwear, took off my wristwatch, and waded in. The water was warm against my feet. Instantly, I recognized the soft, fat feel at the bottom. The water here was 8 inches deep. Yeah, I think that chapter was really significant because he could go back and like it brought back so many memories for him from the war, and he's able to go back there.
And like obviously his daughter didn't really know what was going on.
Yeah,
Because there was a part where it said like he told her to hold on. She said, "Can we go now?" And he said, "Just relax." She didn't really like. Obviously, she's not gonna know all of the things and what he's feeling at this time. So.
Yeah, she didn't really understand a lot of what he was feeling, but because like she said, because he said, "Okay, Kathleen." Okay, Kathleen said, "What's going on?" And he said, "A quick swim." She said, "Where?" "Right here." I said, "Stay put." And that was where the water was 8 inches deep. And she said, "How can you swim out there?" And he said, "I'll manage." So like, she just doesn't really know like what he's going through, but he understands like the significance of where he's at.
And he had talked about how it was just like it was her on page 174. He talked about it said, and the strip was kind of a birthday present, showing her the world, offering a small piece of her father's history. So, personally, I think even though he says it's her birthday present, it's her trip, I think it's more for him going back there and just like reliving those memories and what he would do.
It was definitely an emotional relief for him, especially with all the burden he had been carrying from Kiowa when he went and buried the moccasins. That was definitely an emotional relief for him, like finally getting that burden off of his chest. And he basically used her trip as a way to do that.
Right, so I guess we can talk about what we thought about the ending of the book. Since Miss Friend said that was pretty important. So
Yeah, I think actually one of my journals was the end of the book. I think it was like the last paragraph or a couple sentences, and it said, "I'm young and happy, I'll never die. I'm skimming across the surface of my own history, moving fast, riding them out beneath the blades, doing loops and spins. And when I take a high leap into the dark and come down 30 years later, I realize it as Tim trying to save Timmy's life with a story." I think like that in the end of the book is kind of a way that he like ties it all together and wraps it up by like he's like showing his audience that the way he deals with things is like storytelling. And storytelling is like the best way for him to like get over things and like deal with his past. So I think that was really important that it was like the last part of the book.
I kind of like how, because he said I'm young and happy. There was really never a point in the book where he said he was happy. He was always sad or depressed or nervous about something, and then he ends the book saying I'm happy. So it's like,
Yeah, it's almost like he said that because like he's done writing the book and like he got like all those stories like off of his chest and into the book, so he's done writing it, so he's happy. And I think that's part of why that's at the end of the book.
And like in this chapter, he obviously talks about Linda, but he also talks about like other deaths. And and pretty much the entire chapter was about death. And on page 230, he just says, "Death sucks," he said. And I think that's kind of like what this whole book was about. Really, was like death and how they cope with it, and maybe more on the things that they didn't like, cope with it.
Yeah, he was talking about like the dead being alive or whatever. It's just like him. It's just him talking about like being able to remember like so much about them because they were so close. Like all the soldiers and Linda too. Like he remembered so much about them. He like a lot of that is because they died, and so like he just like remembers them a lot.
I think it was like ending it with the death and tying it all together was really important. And on 232 it says, and then it becomes 1990. I'm 43 years old and a writer now, still dreaming Linda alive in the exact same way. And I think that's important too. It's more like what Kyler said. It's like keeping them alive by telling their stories and like dreaming about them still and not letting them like the thought will leave.
I'm pretty sure I already said this, but on page 226, like he said, we kept the dead alive stories. That kind of sad.
Yeah, because obviously it's not like literal. Like the dead are literally not living, but it's just like the stories that he's able to tell about them and like to keep them in his thoughts and to keep them in everybody else's thoughts.
It was definitely a way for him to kind of express what he had kind of kept to himself and jarred up over all those years, and just allowed for everyone else to like see what he had been going through and all the experiences that he had gone through with those people and how they influenced his life.
Yeah, because obviously he talked about death throughout the book, but this chapter was like he saved this chapter for strictly about that, just so like he could wrap it all up in that way.
I think it was a good way to wrap it up because like you said, he was talking about it all throughout the book, and then he talked like all through it and then back and reviewed it all right last chapter. I think that was a good way to end it.
Yeah, because he like there's spots throughout the book where he talked about it, and then yeah, like you said, like this last chapter, he just kind of like put it all together. So.
On page 218, he says, "The thing about a story is that you dream it is as you tell it, hoping that others might then dream along with you. And in this way, memory and imagination and language combine to make spirits in the head." So that also kind of like ties into that too, with them trying to keep their image in their head and how they're like they were when they're actually there, like their personalities and things like that.
And that was actually like one of my journals too. And it was like I was talking about it because he like appeals to the readers in it, and he wants like because he says, "And you hope that they dream along with you." And I think it's a good way that he like gets the point across that imagining them is like good for you, not letting them go.
Should we start out? Yeah, reflecting our. We just read.
Well, in this discussion, there was more like there was a couple more like awkward silence moments, but I think it's like it's okay because we were just trying to like gather our questions and like look at our journals so we could Yeah, so we could use good evidence and whatnot.
We all had questions, answers.
I don't think anyone made connections.
Yeah.
But again, there was really no place to make a connection. in the second
Yeah.
It's a little bit harder to.
Yeah, the
And
second
it's
half
not like
was-
we can connect and say
Yeah, we
like
can't connect to his own life stories because that was all about him and what he had experienced as a kid. There's not really much that we can do to connect to his life considering we've never met him before.
like it'd be different if we were his age, and we were alive at this time. And we would somehow have like an idea, but
I feel like
we
the
have no
only,
idea.
I feel like the only way we could have connected in the second half of the book is like
If we lost people in our lives. Like,
Yeah,
but
it's-
that
is
what he
death.
did.
You could connect with death in general, but like if you had someone like a relative or grandpa, whatever, that like fought in the Vietnam War and then died, that would have been like a good connection. But other than that, it was like pretty hard to connect the second half of the book. Yeah, because like you said, it was basically all about
Personal experience.
his personal experience. Yeah. So
I think the evidence aspect of it was good. We were getting quotes from the book, and we were telling stories that were in the book a lot, so I think that was good.
yeah,
We
we
used
all
a lot
used,
of
we all used a few couple quotes at least. So
We definitely were able to clear some things up, especially with more some of the confusing chapters.
Yeah.
With using better evidence in books.
I think we responded to each other in a good way, like provided support and answered.
good.